Welcome to the Hooch, where the only place more messed up than your hosts is the barracks on a Friday night or the VA. So get ready to stand by for your weekly dose of toilet humor and shenanigans from your fellow veterans, Coy Mack and Michael Grizzled Grunt Harris.
Good evening, folks. You got Coy Mack here and the one, the only Michael Harris. You actually made it in on time today, so you didn't have any dogs to take from the vet.
Yeah, no dog vets today.
Yeah, so like you were saying yesterday that your dogs were having fun ripping off their cones.
Yeah, they weren't a big fan of the cones, so the vet called and I told them. They was like, well, as long as they're not left alone. I said, no, they're not. So I watch them, but they're good. Give them their little antibiotics. They've been sleeping a lot more these last 2 days, but she said that's normal. But they should be good. No more girl problems after this.
I think some people need those cones on a daily basis just to keep them from doing stupid things.
Yeah, humans do. Humans
just need to put human cones on people.
The human beings,
right? Because
they need.
It's kind of a slow news day, but not at the same time. It's kind of the regurgitation of all the other things that have been happening. But there is something new to talk about today because we're going to talk about the 5-year anniversary of the Space Force, who was founded and started by the one, the only President 45, Donald A. Trump. Which is so funny to me that nobody really talks about trying to get rid of the Space Force, even though it's Donald Trump's like baby. Like he created that. He is forever going to be known as the president that started the Space Force.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think they'll be able to. They wouldn't try. There's a reason behind the Space Force, and it goes deep down some rabbit holes. You know.
Yeah.
It goes really deep. Why Space Force was created, and he might have signed something saying that they can't. You know, you can't get rid of it.
You know, the government, they never like to shut anything down. That means they can give more funding to.
Yeah.
Like, so it benefits them at the same time, but it's still weird to me with how they say Donald Trump is the most evil man on the planet for them to be okay with an entire division of the Department of Defense being created by him, you know?
It's great,
but I mean, at the same time, they were okay with getting Nazi scientists for NASA, so.
And that's true. You know, NAZI, NASA, 4 letters,
yeah,
4 letters. Like, ex facto, Nazi, NASA mean the same thing. It's just one letter.
Operation Paperclip.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to get them before the Russians did.
Yep.
That's what it was. But to start it off, I wanted to, here's the second ever Space Force commercial that has ever been released.
The light from a star can take millions of years to reach Earth.
That's a lot.
So when you look at a star, you're looking back in time. But I see the future. I see exploration and courage. I see my country finding new horizons out there. And I see giant leaps making a comeback. I see myself. The future is where I'll make history.
Crazy, right?
Oh, that space.
Hey, you know, man, like people like the idea of the Space Force, you know, having a force to go out into outer space and to protect the frontier or whatever it might be called. Like I said, it's just funny to me that it's been 5 years, like I said, and I kind of just forgot about it. And one of the things that reminded me of it was this particular story that popped up, which was that they're 2 Space Force Guardians, by the way. They're called Guardians, which I find absolutely funny. They're not soldiers, they're not Marines, they're not airmen. They're Guardians.
Hey,
Guardians.
I could dig that. I could.
So yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I need to look up their uniforms because I haven't really looked them up. So we'll look them up and react to them in real time. I think that'll be fun. So here, 2 Space Force Guardians become service's first graduates of Army's Drill Instructor Academy. So as a former drill instructor yourself, how was that?
Drill sergeant.
Sorry. My bad. I'm Marine side. Drill instructor, drill sergeant, different
drill
things.
Sergeant,
gotcha.
Totally 2 different. Same type of job, but 2 different titles. Drill sergeant school was easy. All they did was take you through 9 weeks of basic training. You go through the same steps as the privates for 9 weeks. You do the same exact training, so it's not hard. So it's nothing. You get treated like private. So imagine being a staff sergeant, going in there, having another staff sergeant who's an instructor treating you like a private. So
that's not funny.
And it gets better as you go on. That's the first 3 weeks, and the further you go on, the more they back off and they ease up. But it's not 24/7. You do your day, you're done for the day. You can go do whatever you want. So yeah.
So you don't actually have to be treated like a private the entire time. It's just for working hours. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, just
that would suck.
However many hours you're there. Yeah, from PT all the way until the end of the day. Whenever the end of the day, like 1700. And even a lot of it's classroom instructing. You're not doing a lot of outside, because we already know how to march. We already know how to call. We knew a lot of this stuff already. It was just the initial, the so-called shark attack, which they were trying to be all like, and most of the people, staff sergeants and sergeant first classes, were like, "What the? Get out of my face, dude!" But we knew the game. We knew.
Yeah.
We understood the game. It was all a game.
I can't foresee Guardians doing shark attacks for poor species. Is that going to be the coin term? We're going to call them spacies?
Maybe.
I mean, that makes sense to call them a spacey. Yeah, there you go. There's the new coin term for everybody to call Space Force people as spacies.
What was that movie? Starship Troopers. Hey, Starry. Hey, Starship.
That sounds stupid compared to like spacey. I think spacey makes more sense. Maybe I'm biased though.
I don't know.
So here's the reporting. It's coming from military.com. 2 Space Force Guardians have graduated from the Army's Drill Instructor Academy at Fort Jackson in South Carolina, making it the first in the nation's newest branch. So I guess up until this point, they had been going to everybody else's basic, or they didn't have instructors themselves, so they couldn't be running it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm guessing.
I mean, what are they gonna? They're just gonna do basic Army or Marine Corps, basic combat training.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do they go through? What do they put them in, like decompression simulators and space suits? I don't know, because they're not going to space. The Space Force, just because it has that title, doesn't mean these guys are going to be off in the galaxy somewhere taking out asteroids. It's more of technology here, computers and encrypting and all this other stuff, catching like let's say Russia or another foreign entity is sending information across, through satellites. Space Force is there to catch it, and because it's encrypted, and they're there to to catch it, and that's in America too. So you got these corrupt individuals in our country sending encrypted messages back and forth to each other. Space Force is there to counter it.
Yeah, because here's the official Space Force website, .mil. For those of you know, .mil is the official website. So if you're ever looking for something official from the military, it's got to be a .mil site. I don't really see a lot of. I guess here's the transfer program and how to get into it. So I guess they're only doing transfers right now, but they're not actually doing recruitment and enlistment. That's kind of interesting, because I haven't really thought about that lately, of how the Space Force is actually getting numbers, if they're doing just transfers or lateral moves from other services into the Space Force branch. So it's probably a lot of airmen that are going to the Space Force, is what I would assume.
Yeah, it'd be a lot more tech guys, computer guys, those type of people, intelligence. I don't see. I mean, maybe some infantry guys. They're still going to need like military police. Those basic jobs. But I only see the need for a drill instructor for when you do get those transfers is kind of the indoctrination of the Space Force portion. You know what I mean? So you get a transfer, you go through however many weeks of learning about the Space Force and some form of basic training, and then you continue on to the one place that they're at, or they send you to Mars. Okay,
so here I found their careers page, which is to the actual like spaceforce.com/careers. So this is the actual recruitment page.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's kind of what the breakdowns are, what they're looking for. It's like logistics, intelligence, leadership, technology, and engineering. These are the kind of candidates they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's see what the enlisted side offers. Whoa, that's pretty. spacey of them.
Sounds like Halo.
I know, right?
Doesn't it?
Some ODST, man. Let's do it. Okay, so you have cyber operations, geospatial intelligence analyst. That's a mouthful for a name of a MOS. A targeting analyst, signal intelligence analyst. Yeah, a lot of analyst jobs apparently. Intelligence analyst and all source intelligence analyst. So we're looking at mostly like intelligence work via satellites. Maybe is what I'm assuming.
It's kind of what we said. Before
Space systems operator. What is this?
We're like, there's going to be a lot of intelligence, a lot of people like that.
It's like I'm choosing a game class.
Yeah, they're
for like a sci-fi thing, man.
They're monitoring information, that goes through, satellites, so-called satellites in space.
Yep. So here's a space systems operator. Operating in the largest space program in the world, it takes a combined efforts of skill of thousands of guardians. It's a responsibility of the space system operator specialist to do everything from detecting sea-launched ballistic missiles and tracking satellites to assisting in rocket-launched and spaceflight operations.
Yeah, it sounds good on paper. Like I said, I think it's something. I think the Space Force is something totally different than what we understand or what's on the surface.
Yep.
I really do. I think they're there to catch or find out all the corrupt information traveling around the plane. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Why did President Biden? What message did he send to this guy? And it's all encrypted. And I think they catch it. And I think they already got a lot more information than what we know about. And they're keeping it. A lot of
so if you ever
go down.
So here's the qualifications. You must be 17 between the ages of 17 and 42, which is normal. U.S. citizen, have a high school diploma or a GED, or with 15 college credits or a GED. Like, so you have to have, if you have a GED, you have to have college credits too, apparently. You can apply through the Air Force recruiter. So they don't have their own recruiters yet. They're going to have to go through the Air Force, which makes sense. Meeting, ASVAB assessment, which we all have to do. I think it was a minimum score for some of the jobs was like 60, something like that. Yeah, screening and then you train. Yeah, so you go to late entry program and then basic military training. So
and talk to my son. I'm like, dude, join the Space Force, bro.
Be a spacey man.
Join the Space Force. I wish the Space Force was around when I joined, but I had fun as an infantryman. I really enjoyed that. I love doing the Spartan stuff.
Right. Okay. So here's another picture I wanted to show you. Here's one of the uniforms.
Air Force.
The hat's what gets me. What is that hat?
It looks like
what is that Aussie looking hat, man?
Well, the symbol itself has meaning.
Yeah, that's the Space Force symbol. I got that.
Yeah,
but like the hat.
Everyone, the hat, that's the Bushman hat. That's what all female drill instructors wear. It's not like the Marine Corps.
Gotcha.
That's what all female drill trainers wear. Army drill sergeants wear that hat. Air Force wears that hat. Now the Space Force wears that same hat as the Bush hat. So the females don't wear the same hat as the males.
Well, I guess it's because my experience of the Marine Corps, they all wear the same hat. Nobody has a special hat.
Not in the Army. It's totally different hat.
Okay, gotcha. So that's just me lack of knowledge there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. But yeah, no, they go with kind of the look of the Air Force. So they're definitely borrowing a lot from that. But they're also keeping in line with which I don't get, because I was looking at some of the photos from the webs, right? So this is kind of like what we're looking at right here. It's kind of basic blue.
You think of it like the Marine Corps, right? The Marine Corps branches from the Navy. So I think Space Force is kind of
that's actually pretty cool.
That's the same thing. They kind of branch. They're a different entity, but they would fall under the United States Air Force, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's almost like the Marines fall under the Navy, but they're still the Marine Corps. The Space Force falls under the Air Force, but they're the Space Force. They're their own separate entity, their own culture and everything going on. Same thing. Look, it's Air Force almost. It is.
Yeah, pretty much. So here we're looking at the enlisted rank and the insignia. So because like I haven't ever looked at these. I don't know if you've ever looked at these. Have you?
No, hell no. Why?
So you got your specialists. You got your E2, your E3, and your E4. So your specialists. So they get the little mouse cursor arrow. What I would call that.
Yeah, same thing.
So it's got a hexagonal border with the mouse arrow, and then they get stripes based on their level. So, obviously, like an E4 is going to be 3 stripes there. I guess it's kind of weird to me, but I guess it's coming off of what the Air Force does.
Yeah.
So you got sergeant, technical sergeant. Didn't the Army used to have technical sergeants, if I remember right?
Yeah, years ago. And they didn't have it when I was in. We didn't have tech sergeants.
So, I can't remember if the Air Force... No, I don't think the Air Force does, do they? I think they do. They might. I have to look that up again. It's been a bit.
I don't know.
But yeah, so you got your sergeant, your tech sergeant, so your staff sergeant level here, and then your master sergeant, senior master sergeant, and chief master sergeant.
Yep.
I guess. I mean, it's definitely space agey with what they were going with, but like I said, it's just weird. It's just weird.
The way they made the commercial look is like they're going out into outer space, like they're space explorers. No, you're not. You sit up here and you monitor. They're kind of like a super NSA or something, I would think. A lot of intelligence. Yeah. And you notice a lot of intelligence, a lot of analysts, a lot of that stuff. So they're kind of like the NSA of the military.
Yeah, orbital chevrons. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing. I know they say they're. I think they eventually will be going to space because I think there's going to be a big push. That's one of the other stories that I'm going to bring up. Now we're going into the news. We got over the initial thing of making fun of the spaceys, but here's what it is. There was an article a couple of weeks ago where they have given Northrop Grumman the I guess the contract to conceptualize moon trains for DARPA.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have moon trains.
Who believes that?
Moon trains.
Yeah, right.
So the envisioned lunar network could transport human supplies and resource for commercial ventures across the lunar surface, according to Northrop Grumman's announcement.
I saw that in a Disney movie one time.
I know, right? Northrop Grumman today announced it will provide DARPA with a concept study of lunar railroad as part of the Defense Department's far future organization's overreaching 10-year lunar architectural compatibility study. So they're doing a study to see if they can go on and set up a base on the moon. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Which the Space Force is probably going to be responsible for, hence why I brought it up in the first place.
That makes my eye twitch because we're not going to the moon. We haven't been to the moon. I don't care what anybody says. And we haven't been back.
Michael is very anti-moon.
Yeah, I'm anti-moon. I'm anti-NASA. We haven't been. We're not going. We're not building no railroad on the moons. No one's going there. That's just my belief. Coy believes something else. My belief, I'm anti-anything NASA. And I don't think anyone's going up there to put a train on the moon for what?
Yeah,
Get
right.
out of here.
So the
Envision. You're just gonna ride around?
Yeah, that's what they're going to do. Here's what they say. The envisioned lunar railway network could transport human supplies and resources for commercial ventures across the lunar surface, contributing to a space economy for the United States and international partners. The company said in the press release, DARPA in December issued study contracts to 14 vendors for various studies on types of technologies needed to create a working lunar colony, including commercial activities in cislunar space and on the surface of the moon. DARPA did not reveal the budget for the effort or the size of the individual contracts. Of course they wouldn't, because it's in the billions. Why would you tell people when they're already upset that we're spending too much damn money, that you're going to spend too much more damn money on saying, hey, can we put trains in space?
Can we put trains in space while our infrastructure is being destroyed right now? Can we put trains in space when we can't even take care of our own border? Can we put trains in space while the price of food is just ridiculous? But yeah, we got enough money of taxpayers' money to put a train in space. They're mocking us in America.
according to the press release from Northrop Grumman, the study will define the interfaces and resources required to build a lunar rail network, establish a critical list of foreseeable costs, technologies, and logistical risks. I would imagine it's going to be astronomical because you still haven't made spaceflight cheap. It's still expensive, hence why Elon Musk has been doing everything in his power to make rockets reusable so it can become cheaper. But they don't want to work with Elon Musk because he doesn't follow what they want him to do. So they're doing it to the usual suspects of defense contractors like Northrop Grumman. Identify prototypes, demonstrations, and analyze the fully operational lunar rail system concept design and architecture. So they're going to build a prototype on the ground to simulate a lunar train.
Now that's believable.
Yeah.
They're going to do a prototype on the ground, just like the moon landing.
Yeah.
They're going to do a prototype on the ground to simulate the landing. Look, man. This is literally making my eye to it. And nothing against the topic or you.
Yeah.
The fact that people believe that they're going to haul supplies to the lunar surface, put a train on there for civilian space exploration. Now, how much? Let's say it was real. Let's say it happened. Let's say all this. Let's live in their world. How much do you think it would cost for one person to take a 3-day flight to the lunar surface, stay up there, ride around on a freaking train, right?
Yeah.
Like they're at Disneyland. They're riding around on a train. You're not seeing anything but, the Earth, maybe the sun. You're not going to see anything else because, obviously you can't see stars and stuff because that's already been said. And then fly 3 days back. Who's going to have that amount of money to do that?
Rich people.
Well,
here's the last one. Explore concepts for constructing, operating the system with robotics, including grading and foundation preparation, track placement and alignment, and joining and finishing, expecting maintenance and repair. So, they already know it's going to be astronomically high cost. They know it is, but they get government money for the contract even if it fails. So, what do they care?
Yeah, and that's the thing. They know if it fails, they still get paid and whatever.
Yeah,
they're just gonna steal our money and build some fake moon train that's never gonna come to fruition. This is just something to take people's eyes off of what's really going on. Oh, look at NASA and all this stuff. But the question is, okay, let's say they get it up there, 10, 15 years from now, probably when they plan it, doing it, and who's gonna maintain it? Because obviously it's going to sit up there in space and, radiation, sun damage, maintenance, all the things that you have to do with something in that type of environment called a vacuum. Who's going to maintain all that stuff in a vacuum?
It'll be jobs for people they put up there, I would assume. They're going to have contracts for people to go up there, just like they had for Afghanistan and Iraq, right? Civilian contractors, people that are willing to put their lives on the line for some money. Yeah, it'll be those guys.
Hey,
what were the people that were in Afghanistan? The contractors that were there. I can't remember.
Oh, the Dynacore guys.
Yeah, the Dynacore guys. Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, all the guys.
A bunch of those, and then there was another one too that handled all the civilian infrastructure stuff. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was Dynacore.
Been too long.
And freaking AI. It's on the tip of my tongue too. It'll come to me.
You'll know the name as soon as we say it, but I can't remember what it is either.
I can't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue, dude. It's almost there. I don't see it happening. Look, whenever they talk about the moon landing, and they always get that same question. What's the question they always ask? Why haven't we gone back? Then they say, well,
because we lost the technology.
We lost the technology. We don't have the technology to go back. I will go back in a nanosecond. Da. So now we have the technology now to go back and put a rail system, train system on the moon, but we haven't even attempted to even try to go back.
We haven't set a foot on the moon, whether you believe it or not, since the 60s. Right, that's how long it's been since we put a person, even in orbit, of the moon, right? Not even land on it, but actually be next to the moon has been that long. Or like it's probably been not that long, but like close enough. It's been longer than 40 years. Let's say that.
You know, during that time, we have, you know, stealth bombers and self-driving cars and all this.
We got space lasers.
Yep, all this space laser stuff and all this Jetson technology. But with all this technology that we've created, we can't seem to go back to a place we already been with the least amount of technology that was created for us to go back then. We're so technologically advanced now. You're telling me now, with all the advancements, we can't figure out how to get back.
But we're gonna put trains on the moon. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but we are
this is coming.
Trains on the moon.
This is a video from a TikToker. Mind you, there's gonna be some language coming up, so if you might want to turn it down. But he's right. I mean, he's right. I think he voices the sentiment of most people when they hear about space trains.
For anyone not paying attention, the United States just secured funding to give taxpayer money to Northrop Grumman to put a fucking train on the fucking moon! You don't have health care because we need fucking moon trains! This country is a fucking joke! Remember that!
He's not wrong. I mean, when you say it out loud like that in that way, it is a joke. This country is a joke. If like we can secure funding for moon trains, but we can't figure out how to fix the healthcare system or the border for that matter.
Exactly.
It's so crazy.
That when you fucking vote that you don't have health care because the goddamn moon needs a fucking train from a goddamn weapons contractor. Fuck America.
And
Can you hear
that's
me, Coy?
Yeah, I can hear you. I got you.
Oh,
but yeah,
because
that's the
lost
sentiment.
connection.
But some of the replies to this are actually pretty funny. So this was coming from TikTok Cringe. Train on the moon, sure, why not? High speed trains in the U.S., nah.
Yeah.
Nah. There was one really good one. Oh yeah, here it is. Coming from Program Emotional. Good news, we're finally funding high speed rail. It's gonna be on Earth, right? It's gonna be on Earth, right? No.
Look, man. Look, this is hilarious because if you look at our infrastructure right now, we have Boeing 757s falling apart in
mid-flight, yeah.
Mid-flight, just doors flying off. We got all this crazy stuff here on the ground. We got bridges collapsing. We got potholes everywhere you go. You know, we got buildings that haven't been fixed since the 1960s falling apart. You know, old buildings. You go in some of these buildings, they talk about like, you know, what's that big tall Empire State Building. You know, look at these buildings that are falling apart, but they make them look good on camera. And we can't even fix this stuff. But yeah. we're putting a high-speed train on the moon to do what? What?
It's actually worse than that. We're funding a study to see if we should or can put trains on the moon.
Oh my God. Geez.
Just like we funded a study to see if Mantis can run on treadmills, or any of the various other crazy studies that we've funded.
And
I think there was one about shrimp sex too in there somewhere. I remember reading a while back.
These are the people that the American people complain about, all this bull crap that they're funding, but then they continue to vote them back in. Oh, we're going to bring them back.
Do it, man.
You need to look at who voted for that. If whatever meathead, window-licking, smooth-brain politician voted to fund this, you need to vote him out. Because obviously the best interest of his constituents in America ain't on his mind. It's all this.
It's true. We
go ahead.
It's true. And no, it's like Boeing's got a bunch of problems. They're one of the biggest defense contractors when it comes to planes, and they have things that are falling apart at the seams because of poor quality, right? And then they also have a whistleblower that just happened to commit suicide the same day he met with Boeing lawyers, and they were doing really poorly.
Boom. I mean, we are so messed up in the head, right?
Yeah.
We are taught. This is what we are taught. We are taught that our phone signals come from satellites and bounce off ground satellites, and that's how we get a connection.
Mm-hmm.
But when we go into a plane, our phones don't work. You know what I mean? So you're saying that we can't even figure that out. And you're saying we're going to figure out how to take, I don't know how many tons of equipment, if this is possible, how many tons of equipment up there.
Yeah.
And who's going to be out there, so they say, space, floating around, building a train track. That makes
well,
no
one of the
sense.
only benefits to actually putting a lunar base in the first place is to build larger space platforms up there because of 0G. Like, that's the only reason they would want to do it, and they should do it.
In a vacuum.
In a vacuum, yeah.
In a vacuum.
In a
Just
vacuum.
always remember, space is a vacuum, so they tell us. It's a vacuum. You know, how do you survive in a vacuum? I don't know. And then, you know,
You
how are
don't,
they
you
gonna
die.
Okay, another question. You know, here's another question. How are they accounting for, you know, the movement of Earth, the moon, through the solar system, around the sun, while putting a train car, and you're supposed to be moving at hundreds of thousand miles an hour through space, but we're going to put a train car. So how do you account for the movement? You know, do you got to angle it? The movement of the whatever direction is moving around the Earth, and then you got to angle it this way, and then it's moving this way through the solar system. You know what I mean? It's just all these.
They have trajectories and maths for that. Yes, yeah, they have.
No.
Am I smart enough to figure that out? No, I don't know what those trajectories are going to be, but I know what they are. Yes.
That is the world you live in, and the world I live in, I call bull crap.
Two separate
That is
things.
not the world I
We
live
will,
in. Yeah, we will agree.
but still,
to
at
disagree.
the end of the day, the government is paying for a study to create space trains when we can't afford healthcare, and the cost of goods and inflation is going up. Which leads us to our next story: the Biden admin cancels plan to refill the emergency oil reserve amid high prices.
Why? Why, Koi? Say why again? Because of what?
Because we're building space trains.
Because of high prices. They don't want to fill them because of high prices, but you got billions of dollars. You want to build a space train.
I've got billions of dollars to make a study on space trains.
Do you see what we get so upset about America? Americans should be upset about this. You should be upset. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So one of the reasons they said that they weren't going to do it is because they were going to buy it at a certain price, and the price went above that. And so they're like, no, we're not going to buy it. It's like, yeah, you should have bought it. Trump wanted to buy some when it was like $23 a barrel, and Schumer said no. So we could have had more, and then he already released it in order to better perform in the midterms because he wanted to lower gas prices because their policies were killing gas, right? So but it's an artificial scarcity in the first place. Oil is, but I thought it was funny because but they're also claiming on Fox Business that things are going to get worse, and I wanted to.
Welcome back. Another rally underway this morning. Take a look at futures indicating a strong open. The Dow Industrial's up 132 and the Nasdaq up 66. Take a look at shares of shipping giant Maersk plummeting yesterday more than 6% at its worst after confirming it had chartered the container ship that crashed into the Baltimore Bridge. The stock closed down about 2.5% off of the lows, but the collapse potentially disrupting $80 billion worth of cargo that travels through the port of Baltimore, ranking first among the country's ports for volume of key commodities.
And still, that was an accident. That wasn't an attack.
Yeah.
But direct energy weapons attacking agents of the United States, totally believable.
We live in
Totally believable.
Now, you know, one thing before you continue, one thing about this whole not filling up because it's too expensive. This has nothing to do with the price, as we already stated in the first segment. The price, based off America's standard price, money's nothing. You know, so for them to say this is too expensive to fill them up, they're full of crap. Because they can throw money around to every other place, but they can't take care of their own people here in America. And what this always leads down to, and we've said it on our shows many, many times, the Green New Deal. If they can freaking stop our oil reserves, stop us preventing gas, it stops people from filling up their car, which almost forces people to do what? Buy an electric vehicle. And all leads to the Green New Deal.
Which they've been trying to force it, but the infrastructure of the United States can't handle that many electric cars in the first place, because we haven't
right.
built any nuclear reactors to actually supply green electricity.
And that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. So think about it.
Yeah.
The infrastructure can't support all these EVs, right?
Yeah.
So the infrastructure can't support it, and then they're already talking about creating smart cities. They create smart cities, then they'll say, well, we created a city for you, so you really don't need a car now. You have everything here. It all, and that's part of the Green New Deal. So everything leads to the Green New Deal. All of it. Everything. All this is happening is the Green New Deal.
Who is the brainchild of a dumb person.
Commodities. Joining me now is Commonwealth Financial Network CIO Brad McMillan. Brad, good to see you. Thanks very much. Obviously not what you want to see going into inflation readings and efforts to get inflation down. What is your take on the economic angle of this story?
I think you're exactly right, Maria. You've got a situation where one of the things that's been holding inflation down has been sustained very low inflation in goods prices, or even deflation. And this is going to hit it, and it's going to hit it hard. It's going to hit autos. It's going to hit materials, as you just showed on the screen. In other words, this is something that's going to complicate not only Baltimore, but as you were saying earlier, freight all along the East Coast. And when you couple that.
But again, it wasn't an attack, even though it is going to be catastrophic for inflation numbers in the economy of the United States. It was an accident, a total accident.
With, for example, the Red Sea situation, I can see goods inflation starting to take off again. Not right now, but over the next 3 to 6 months.
Certainly, we did see oil stay elevated after the attacks in the Red Sea on certain ships trying to deliver goods to Israel. And that's why, one of the reasons that oil is where it is right now. What is your take in terms of oil prices staying elevated? Isn't this the underlying component that is keeping overall inflation elevated?
You know, it's interesting because when you look at oil, it's both a supply and a demand question. What we've seen is a couple of things. First of all, we've seen oil supplies constrained, as you say, in the Red Sea, but we've also seen pumping discipline here in the U.S., and we've seen more exports. So it's really a supply-demand question, and given the supply and the increasing demand, I expect to see oil prices stay fairly high indefinitely.
Yeah.
There's simply no factor that's
Indefinitely high.
Wow.
They do not see gas ever getting cheaper, which goes over to the thing of like EVs, even though the infrastructure of the electrical grid can't handle EVs. A mass influx of EVs will strain the supply of electricity, and they will ration it out to people that need it, because that's how it always is done.
Something people need to think about when it comes to gas. All you Greenpeace people out there, all you socialists that are listening. If the price of gas goes up, that price of fuel, oil, gas, petroleum affects the price of everything, because in order to produce the majority of these things, to process them, to move them, to get them packaged, to do all this stuff, what do they need? They need fuel.
Yep.
They need oil.
They need fuel. Everything runs on fuel now.
Everything. So if the price goes up for them to manufacture this stuff, they need that fuel to help manufacture this stuff. The price for those goods go up. By the time it gets to the consumer, the grocery stores buying these inflated prices, and then they have to make their money back, and they skyrocket those prices in order to make their money back. Green New Deal, people, don't buy into it.
Also, another thing to be wary of is they're bringing back the bird flu. The bird flu is now the next black swan event. I wouldn't be too concerned about it jumping from person to person, even though they're trying to make a big deal out of it so they can do lockdowns again. I would be more worried about the egg producing industry, because whenever they find bird flu in a flock of birds, they call said birds. And if they do that multiple times in multiple places at multiple factories or even farms, you don't get eggs. And eggs is a major component in a lot of things you make. Eggs are already expensive.
And you know me, I'm on a conspiracy day today, because I don't know, the universe has been talking to me. All right, think about this. Bird flu happens. What happened last time the bird flu hit? What did they do with all the chickens?
They killed them all.
They went through and killed them all. What is Bill Gates trying to create? Lab grown what?
lab-grown meats
lab-grown
and
chicken. So if you can
lab-grown
create,
chicken. Yeah.
if you can say something like the bird flu, this man-made bird flu is coming back, and then you have to go through for the safety and security of the American people and the people across the world, we have to kill all these chickens, but we have an alternative for you. We have lab-grown chicken that tastes just as tasty. You know, so this is all connected, man. This isn't all by chance, and it's all hitting us hard, and it's hard for us to keep up. But we always say, pay attention to what they're doing, and tie it all together. All this is connected, all of it. Bird flu hits, kill all the chickens. No more chickens. Lab-grown meat. Lab-grown meat. mRNA.
You forgot the crickets.
And the crickets and all this other stuff. And now we can put our injections inside all this meat, and now we can feed it to the people because they want chicken. They want their protein. We can inject it with whatever vaccines we want, and then we can put it out on the market. And now these people are eating what they refuse to take.
Yep. They're already putting crickets in things already. Like people just don't know it yet. They've replaced it with a lot of things. If you need to be reading your ingredients list on your foods, because I can't remember the name of the actual name for the crickets, but they don't say crickets on it, right? Obviously they wouldn't just say cricket protein. They would say something else. It would be, they named it something else, but I can't remember what it was. But yeah, it's crickets. You can eat crickets, which is fine if you want to eat crickets, but I don't want to be forced to eat crickets.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there is an app, and everyone can look it up. Go to your app store, whatever phone you have. It's called Insect Food Scan. So like Coy said, read the ingredients. So what this insect food scan does, you scan the barcode, and it's a little orange and has a little bug on it, if you can see it. I don't know if they can see it, but you see it right there at the bottom. Right there next to
my... I can't. Yeah, it's out of focus. I can't see it.
Yeah, well, it looks like that. So what you can do is when you're at the grocery store, and it doesn't work on every single thing, but there's certain items, like Coy said, read the ingredients. And they, like he said, they don't call it crickets. They call it something else. Scan it, and that app is going to let you know if there's insects mixed in with whatever you're buying, proteins you're buying.
Yep.
Look it up.
And here is the CDC release for the bird flu, just so everybody has it. This is what they're saying: the highly pathogenic avian influenza, or H5N1 virus infection reported in a person in the United States. So this one person, but apparently like 20. Like this is a person in Texas, by the way. But they don't say who this person is, because like one of the things that people are calling out is the fact that a lot of the people that are bringing these other diseases into the United States are not legal. They're illegal migrants or criminal aliens that are bringing in like measles, for instance, across the border, because there's a lot of other places in the world that do not require certain vaccinations. And so they bring in things that normally wouldn't be here, because that's what happens when you have an unregulated and unfettered policy of letting people cross the border without certain measures. So
yeah,
there's going to be a push. There's going to be a push
for
on
the
that.
measles. A lot of us are vaccinated on the measles. Remember, they told us you get the measles, you'll never get it again, or if you've had the measles once, you'll never get it again. So someone said in the comments, Diane said, it's just another scare tactic. And the thing with these powers to be, notice they're just throwing all this stuff, and this is stuff Coy looked up and found. You know, this is stuff that's out there for you guys to see. No one wants you to live in fear. We just want you to understand their tactic is to make you live in fear. Don't live in fear with this stuff, because it's all man-made. It's all calculated things that they're doing. They want to scare us into submission. Fear is an easy way to control people.
It just goes into everything that we've been talking about. A lot of the stuff is all leading up to the same thing, is what we're talking about with war, with the world war that's happening, that nobody wants to admit there's a war happening. But we're at war, but not at war. That's what we're doing. So like our good old President Joe Biden calls for the Prime Minister of Israel to have a ceasefire. So this is the official readout from the White House. President Biden spoke by telephone with Prime Minister Netanyahu. The two leaders discussed the situation in Gaza. President Biden emphasized that the strikes on humanitarian workers and the overall humanitarian situation are unacceptable. He made clear the need for Israel to announce and implement a series of specific, concrete, and measurable steps to address safety of aid workers. Civilian harms, humanitarian suffering, and the safety of aid workers. Yeah, they should have already been doing that according to international law. There's an entire thing where we're not supposed to target humanitarian workers or, like, I don't know, the Red Cross, for instance.
The
Like shooting a medic.
Geneva Convention.
Yeah. We have an agreed upon standard of things. It's like, well, they're terrorists. They don't count because they're not a nation we're at war with. And it's like, no, it still counts if you're at war or a battle with somebody. Those rules still apply.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, not us.
I don't even believe this. I don't believe anything that Biden puts out. This is all just fluff. Biden had to say something because the amount of
pressure he was getting,
on both sides, no matter, even if you support Israel, support Palestine, a lot of people frowned upon that. It doesn't matter who you support. So he had to step in and say, look, I'm doing something. Yeah, he can say what he wants, but until it happens, don't believe him.
Yeah, everything that the government produces is propaganda. Everything is propaganda. Like to think otherwise is silly. It's just silly. He made clear the U.S. policy with respect to Gaza will be determined by our assessment of Israel's immediate action on these steps. He underscored that an immediate ceasefire is essential to establish and improve the humanitarian situation and protect innocent civilians. He urged the prime minister to empower his negotiations to conclude a deal without delay to bring the hostages home. The two leaders also discussed public Iranian threats against Israel and the Israeli people. President Biden made clear that the United States strongly supports Israel in the face of those threats because they want a war with Iran anyway. Yeah. So that just benefits the White House. If it didn't, they wouldn't care.
Yep, they'll do anything to get a war. And if they go to war with Iran, why would they go to war with Iran? Yep. Resources. It's all resources, man. It's all part. Again, it's part of the Green New Deal. If they can go to war with Iran and they can take control of all the oil and all the blood of the earth over there, they can also push a new Green Deal over there too. It'll be a worldwide thing, and it'll fall under their new world order. And they control the whole world. That's the goal. And they'll start a war with anyone to get what they want. Saying it's.
I still like this is funny from the Wall Street Journal. Is this how they're quoting this is funny. The Biden administration's toughest verbal pressure on Netanyahu since the war. Verbal pressure. Joe Biden, I do not believe, is capable of giving significant verbal pressure to Netanyahu because he can barely speak.
Yeah. I want to hear Joe Biden say his ABCs. Convince me.
I want to hear these phone calls, man.
Yeah. It's just.
Dude, that's what I want to hear, man. This is so crazy. These people are silly. We're a silly nation.
Get it over.
So yeah, calling for an immediate ceasefire. Where's Jon Kirby?
That an immediate ceasefire. He underscored that an immediate ceasefire is essential to stabilize and improve the humanitarian situation and to protect innocent civilians. And he urged the Prime Minister to empower his negotiators to conclude a deal without delay to bring the hostages home.
Okay, so that's basically what I read. That's what it is. But yeah. So we need a ceasefire. They're finally calling for a ceasefire in Gaza after all of the issues that they've been having and people calling for them in the first place. But now's the time because some aid workers got killed. That's when they're like, oh no, that was a red line, sir. You can't do that.
And now we need a ceasefire. We can't go around killing Americans and killing innocents. Well, we do it all the time, though. So.
The problem is that it wasn't just Americans. It was multinationals from different places. Like you had British citizens killed in that attack too, which set off Rishi Sunak and David Cameron, where they were coming out and said, yeah, you need to be held responsible in international court. Like, we think you're an international criminal at this point. Which, mind you, most people are comparing what Netanyahu's doing to what should be done at Nuremberg. They should be doing a trial for people that are responsible for the civilian deaths in Gaza, and that there should be held international trial for war crimes from Netanyahu, which doesn't surprise me any. Like I said, like at the beginning of this conflict, I supported their a bit to defend themselves against a terrorist organization, Hamas, right? But you crossed the line from self-defense to cleansing a while ago. Like, I'm a realistic person. Like, you can't say it's shit and throw it at my face and say it's candy or chocolate. I know what it is. I know it's crap. It's on my face. Okay. You cannot tell me that. That's what they're trying to do. They keep trying to propagandize us to tell us it's one thing when it's not. Like everybody in the world can see what they're doing.
And they know this. They know that people are waking up and seeing what's going on. Just not there, just every conflict. And so now you really have to start questioning anything that America gets involved in. The same when it goes to Ukraine and Russia. You know, they're not telling you that NATO moved on Russia's border and this is why Russia acted the way they acted. You know, there's a lot that led up to that. And just about every other conflict. So, you know, my stance on war, you know, I'm anti-war and I don't believe we should be in any foreign conflicts at all. And we wouldn't be having the problems we're having in our own country that we're having at this current moment that they don't really talk about. They always talk about something that's going on overseas, but they don't talk about all the major issues that are going on here.
Yeah. And I've seen enough videos on Twitter of the IDF doing hellaciously dumb things that would get anybody else, especially in the United States military, arrested for war crimes. I'm sorry. Like, it's just like they are doing things that would get anybody arrested for war crimes. Especially that one video last year of those people with the white flag waving, getting shot when they had no weapons on them at all. They were just civilians. So, like, excuse me. No, what you're doing is wrong at this point. Like, we could defend you in the beginning because of what happened to you, but now you've crossed the line over to something else. Just because something happened to you doesn't give you an excuse to wipe out an entire people or like a population of people and push them into another country. You're doing exactly what everybody had done to the Jews up until this point in like ancient history, up until medieval times and to now. Like you're becoming the person you fear. Is what I want to say. That's what they're doing. At least Netanyahu and the people in charge. Like, I'm not saying the Israelis. I'm talking about the Israeli government. Just like when I talk about the U.S., I talk about the U.S. government and not the people. The people are not responsible for this. It's the people in charge who convinced a population through lying and intimidation and what other factors to vote for them and put them in power, even though they're evil individuals who are psychopaths.
Yep.
So, like, there's been tons of protests in Tel Aviv for the resignation of Netanyahu. Like this has been happening for a while now, where there have been periodic calls for him to resign. They also had a recent issue of one of the family members of the hostages, basically in Israeli Congress, start throwing like getting upset and causing a scene. Which they rightly should, because they're not doing anything to help their family members, right? They're just, not only that, they've also killed hostages themselves. Like, which is another point that I want to make, is that they have not actually taken priority to try to protect hostages' lives. And in fact have been actively trying to not care about the lives of hostages, even if they're U.S. citizens too.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, it's not the people, because the majority of people around the world in most countries, the majority of the people don't want to see any conflict. The majority of people want peace, you know, and they are calling on the government to stop this. You see it in America. You see any country you go to where there's some type of conflict. There are people out there actually protesting on both sides to end this, you know, so the governments need to listen to the people. The people are tired of turning on their TV, seeing people blown up or killed or murdered, or conflict here and conflict there, conflict. People are tired of seeing that, and people are waking up because it's a shift, man. It's a shift going into, people are more leaning towards love and peace, but our TVs will tell us otherwise, which the TV is lying to us. The truth is, most people don't want nothing to do with this stuff. They just want to go back, stop the conflict so they can all just live in peace and not worrying about having to get, you know, mugged or blown up or, you know, whatever else, drowned on a bridge. People are tired, man. And they are waking up. So it's a good thing that people are waking up, and it's going to happen soon, that we are going to get the peace that we've all, you know, that we've all wanted.
I'm going to need to make a Cooks My Grit shirt, because Diane says it so much in the chat. There's like, cooks my grits. Every time I see it, cooks my grits.
You ought to see her Facebook post. She always has grits on there. She loves grits.
Grits are good. But, but
I like grits.
Like I said, it's the governments that are causing the issue. in the first place. A lot of people don't want these conflicts, and none of these conflicts actually serve anybody other than the people in charge.
Yeah.
And the pocketbook of defense contractors who are pocketing money to lobbyists who are then giving it to your politicians, right? It's like we know that what's stupid is that we know the corruption is happening, and we can see it in front of our faces, but yet nobody does anything about it.
Nope. And
so what are we supposed to do? You're supposed to vote them out. You're supposed to stop funding them.
The biggest thing is that the American people or people across the world that do support it need to stop supporting it.
Yeah.
Because again, these powers, they feed off of support. They never show the people that they might show a few people that disagree. But usually when we see something like that people that are against it, it's usually some other news network that is talking about it, some foreign news network. But
it's propaganda.
Yeah, they feed off the people that support it. Well, we got people backing it, so we're going to do it. But if the majority of the people in a country said we are not supporting it, we are not voting you in if you go to war, we will vote you out, we are not going to pay our taxes, we are not going to go to work, we're going to boycott the whole country to stop this war.
Yeah.
There's ways you could fix it, but we just got to stop living in fear and figure out how we're going to do it as one country, as one world. There's way more than us than there is of them. We got to remember.
That's true. One last thing before we go. We also have this gem, the White House press secretary saying that the administration doesn't support Taiwan independence, which like I said, I don't care one way or the other about Taiwan, other than I know that the major supply of semiconductor chips are in Taiwan, and so that's the reason why we defend Taiwan. It has nothing to do with the Taiwanese people. We could care less if they have democracy or not. We would give it to China in a heartbeat if it wasn't for the semiconductors.
Yep.
That's the reality. That's the truth of the world. But let's listen to the propaganda mouthpiece say what he says.
Reportedly told President Biden during their summit in San Francisco that Beijing plans to reunify Taiwan with mainland China. Did the Chinese leader bring up similar sentiment in their call the other day? And if so, what was President Biden's response?
Certainly Taiwan came up in the context of the call. There's not a single discussion that we don't have with senior leaders in the PRC where we don't talk about Taiwan. Of course it came up. I won't characterize President Xi's comments, but I can tell you that President Biden was very, very clear that nothing's changed about our one China policy. We don't support independence for Taiwan, but we also don't want to see the status quo changed in a unilateral way, and certainly not by force.
Certainly not by force. Then what do you want? Then what do you want, man?
And who is we?
Right? Yeah. The uniparty, the establishment.
Yeah,
that's the we.
No
that's
we.
who they're talking about.
Stop tying us that
the royal
really,
we.
Yeah, there's no we in it.
Or we.
Whatever those governments want to do to each other, let them do it. But don't involve the people in your conflict between government leaders. Don't involve us.
Yeah, I think the Babylon Bee had the best response title to this. Taiwan kicking itself for not bribing the Bidens. If only you had given the Bidens a little bit more money. But I thought that's what Nancy Pelosi was doing when she took a trip there.
Yes.
I mean...
Strange times, man. We're living in some crazy.
I guess this is an older one, but yeah, it still applies. It still applies.
Oh, that's a good question, Crazy Days. The guy that set himself on fire, whatever happened to him?
Oh, he died, but yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, we know he died, but don't talk about him anymore, huh?
No, I mean, because people memory hold that. Nobody in the establishment wants to remember the service member that lit himself on fire in front of the embassy. No. Why would we ever want to remember that?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the way it is, where you're getting propagandized to believe certain things and to look at certain things a certain way. And that's what the major mainstream media outlets do, is they get handed information by the intelligence agencies who then regurgitate it and put it in a way that is acceptable to the American people. And that's how they launder the information they want you to know and to hear and believe. That's what.
Just always remember, when the mainstream media says our sources, their sources are the CIA and intelligence communities. That's their source.
Unnamed source.
Unnamed source. It's coming directly from the people that created the problem, and they just hand them a
So,
piece of paper, like Coy said. Read this.
I need to make a fact sheet for people to understand a lingo for the media. When they say a anonymous source, it means it's an intelligence agent of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
If they say a person familiar with the matter or thinking, it means they made it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a real quote. That's just some person's opinion, hearsay. But they want you to believe it to be fact, right?
Yes.
Unless they name the source and they have multiple sources to corroborate what they're trying to say, they're just making things up as they go. It's not real. It's their opinion. Most news articles, if you read them, are opinion pieces masqueraded as news. Exactly. Unless it has the facts and has sources by named individuals, not anonymous sources or people familiar with the matter or familiar with their thinking or a person close to the person they're trying to talk about. It's all BS. All of it is BS. Because that's how they trick you with the words.
Yeah, words or spells. Remember that.
Words
or spells. Television.
Right. Like I said, it's been kind of slow news days, so it's going to pick up soon, though. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to be happening in the next couple of weeks and the next couple of months. Yeah, just need to be watching out for it. Tomorrow, we're going to be on with the Savage Patriots talking about the diddler.
P. Diddler.
The P. Diddler.
The P. Diddler. We're going to have some more people in there.
I mean, where is Diddy? Like, nobody's saying, like, where he is. Like, they're not exactly saying... He said he's shown up a couple of times, but nobody has said exactly where Diddy is.
He's hiding on an island with the rest of the, with Epstein and Michael Jackson.
Why is it always an island?
Yeah, they're all on an island.
It's always an island.
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
It's all an island.
Who knows, man? We're gonna break it down tomorrow, and we're gonna throw some more people in there. We're gonna probably talk about 50 Cent, and he can't stand Diddy, and some of these other celebrities.
Cat Williams too, I'm sure.
Yeah, Cat Williams, 50 Cent, Justin Bieber, Usher, Jay-Z, Beyonce. So many people, TD Jakes. There's so many people involved. So hopefully we're going to break that all down tomorrow.
I think there was a video of Diddy and Bieber when he was young that was really creepy now in hindsight. You should bring that up. Yeah. Anyway, same time as usual, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern, I believe. Mm-hmm. I always get the times mixed up, don't worry. But anyway, that'll be it for us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow on the Savage Patriots, and then next Tuesday for the Hooch. We love you, America. And we are out. War.